There's one harsh truth most men never come to terms with. You can't convince a woman to make you her priority. The more you try, the more replaceable you become. Why? Because being a priority isn't something you beg for. It's something you imprint deep into her psychology, until she can't imagine her world without you at the center of it. This isn't manipulation. It's not about games. It's about transformation, becoming the kind of man she instinctively respects, values, and fears to lose. Because when you master your presence, your inner gravity, you stop chasing validation. You become the one she reorganizes her life around. Stay with me until the end. Because the principles you're about to learn don't just shift perception temporarily. They rewire the way women see you permanently. Let's begin. Rule 1. Become the emotional authority she trusts above all. Most men think women just want emotional safety. That's only half the truth. The rare man she truly prioritizes goes a step further. He becomes the reference point for her emotional reality. She doesn't just feel secure around him. She filters her own feelings, doubts, and decisions through him. Machiavelli understood this. He who defines the standards controls the game. You don't just calm her storms, you shape the emotional climate itself. Imagine this. She's dated emotionally chaotic men before. Reactive, dramatic, unstable. But with you, things are different. When tension rises, you remain grounded. You don't argue, you don't chase conflict. You lead it all with silence, strength, and clarity. You don't escalate. Instead, you steer the conversation toward resolution, not endless emotional spirals. And over time, something subtle but powerful happens. She recalibrates. She stops relying solely on her emotional surges and begins looking to you as the measure of how serious anything really is. Now picture this. You're in a relationship, maybe even married. She walks in, stressed and emotional after a long day at work. Most men either absorb that energy or scramble to fix her mood. But not you. You stay still, you listen, you observe, and you respond with calm, grounded clarity. In that moment she realizes, when I lose control, he becomes even more centered. That's how emotional authority gets installed. Not through control, but through consistency. Here's your next strategic move. Stop reacting to her emotions. Start leading her through them. Let her feel safe, yes. But more than that, let her feel stabilized by your unwavering presence. Because the man who becomes her emotional compass, he never becomes optional. Now let's move to the next level, one that implants something even more addictive into her psyche. Rule 2. Use subtle social proof to activate her protection. Instinct. Most men get this wrong. They either avoid jealousy altogether or stir it recklessly. Both are weak, reactive moves. A powerful man takes a more calculated route. He introduces quiet signals that other women recognize his value, without ever disrespecting his partner or creating chaos. Why? Because nothing triggers a woman's instinct to guard her position like seeing other women silently notice you. Machiavelli would put it this way: perceived competition preserves loyalty better than imposed control. Now imagine this. You're casually dating. Most guys rush to prove they're committed too soon. They kill the tension. They overinvest. You move differently. You live fully. You keep your social circle intact. You occasionally post high-quality moments. A photo from an event, a trip, or a professional win. Comments roll in. Old acquaintances leave flattering remarks. You don't hide it. You don't explain it. You simply let it exist, and most importantly, you allow her mind to register the quiet truth. Other women see your value. Now picture this. You're in a relationship. At social gatherings, women engage with you, respectfully. You maintain boundaries. But your presence, your charisma, it's noticed. Your partner doesn't need your words to know what's happening. She feels it in the energy others project toward you. Here's your next move. Let your social value be visible. Naturally, subtly. No need to provoke jealousy. No chasing validation. Just exist in a space where your desirability speaks quietly, but clearly, because when a woman senses low-key competition, she invests deeper, not out of fear, but because she recognizes she has something valuable worth protecting. That's how you transition from option to priority. Let's keep moving. Because what comes next installs something more permanent than attraction. Rule 3. Create emotional imprints. She can't replace. Attraction isn't built on consistency alone. It's built through emotional anchors, powerful, memorable moments that fuse your presence to her identity. The rare man doesn't wait for these moments. He engineers them, deliberately, strategically. Machiavelli said it best. Memorable victories cement loyalty far longer than steady maintenance. So instead of repetitive dinner dates and endless texting, you craft experiences. You take her to a live event she's always dreamed of. You challenge her with a shared goal or physical adventure. You open up with stories of growth, but always with intention, always with control. Now imagine this in a long-term relationship. You involve her in pivotal moments, career decisions, family dynamics, private wins, even financial choices. Not because you need her, but because you allow her to be part of your evolution. Each of these moments becomes an emotional imprint, not random, not accidental, but designed to embed one unshakable belief. No one else can replicate what we've built. Here's your next power move. Create intentional milestones. Challenge her. Include her. Elevate together, because shared victories lead to psychological ownership. And what she feels she owns, she'll fight hardest to protect. Now let's move forward, because the next rule builds a subtle form of dependence that most men overlook. Rule 4. Manage her micro-dependencies. Deep priority isn't maintained by grand gestures. It's secured in the daily subtle ways she leans on you. The more she turns to you for small affirmations, perspective, clarity, or emotional grounding, the more irreplaceable you become, and you never have to force it. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Control isn't always imposed. Often it grows subtly, layer by layer through dependence. Here's what that looks like. If you're single, over time she begins to seek your input on social tensions, personal dilemmas, and everyday decisions. Not because you force your opinion, but because your insight brings calm. You become her quiet advisor. Her subconscious begins to register a powerful truth. His perspective centers me. Now, in a long-term relationship, this goes even deeper. She gradually aligns with your structure, your morning rhythm, your financial strategies, your problem-solving mindset. You don't demand control. You simply lead with such steadiness that following your lead becomes natural. Here's your next quiet move. Offer clarity when she's uncertain, without pushing advice. Let her seek your guidance, because once she starts looking to you for stability, you've already become her psychological anchor. Now let's move to a more advanced lever. One that installs the invisible fear that locks you in as a priority. Rule 5. Install the silent fear of losing you. Weak men attempt this the wrong way, with threats, games, or ultimatums. It always backfires. A strong man does it effortlessly, by projecting a quiet reality. I will thrive with or without you. He never says it. He doesn't need to. His sovereignty speaks louder than words. Machiavelli would put it like this: he who depends on no one governs everyone. Let's set the scene. You're in a serious relationship. She feels your connection, but also senses you're still whole without her. You don't unravel during conflict. You don't panic when she pulls back. You remain centered, focused, rooted in your purpose. You continue to evolve, building your wealth, expanding your circle, sharpening your discipline. She watches this silently, and her subconscious whispers, if I lose him, he keeps growing. But I might not. Here's your next move. Create a life that expands, whether she applauds it or not. Let your evolution be visible, but never flaunted. Because the man who silently levels up, without asking for permission, installs the fear of loss without ever saying a word. Now that this subtle fear exists, it opens the door to the next shift. Rule 6. Shift the emotional investment balance. Attraction is not fixed. It's a dynamic tension, constantly adjusting based on who carries the emotional weight in the relationship. Most men fail here. They shoulder all of that emotional load. They're the ones always initiating, texting first, planning every date, validating every emotion. They're constantly adjusting, constantly giving, constantly pursuing. And what happens? They slowly become replaceable. Not because they lack worth, but because they erase the very tension that sparks a woman's investment. See, when everything is handed over freely, there's nothing left for her to reach for. But the rare man, the man who understands deeper dynamics, builds something different. He creates a space where her emotional investment grows naturally over time. Not because he forces it, but because she wants to invest. Machiavelli would phrase it like this: power grows not by how much you give, but by how much others give to stay close to you. Let's bring this into your reality. Imagine you've just started dating her. Yes, your presence creates the initial spark, but you don't fall into the overgiver trap. You create space. You don't text her every morning. You don't instantly reply to every message. You allow subtle gaps where her mind begins to wonder, to reach, to initiate. At first it's one message. Then it becomes more. Hey, are you free this weekend? I was thinking about you earlier. I made reservations. Hope you're free. And just like that, the script flips. She starts pursuing you. Not because you asked, but because your presence created the desire to secure her place in your world. Now picture this dynamic inside a long-term relationship. Most men still carry all the emotional labor, even years into the commitment. They plan every vacation, organize every social event, keep the entire relationship afloat. You move differently. You focus on your world, your mission, your goals, your growth, and you allow her to take ownership of key aspects of the relationship. Maybe she starts planning the trips. Maybe she surprises you with a date night. Why? Because deep down she understands that access to you isn't something to take for granted. She feels the need to protect the bond, to preserve what you share. Because she values it, and the more emotional energy she pours in, the more emotionally invested she becomes. This isn't manipulation, it's human nature. We fight hardest for what we've invested in. Let's go even deeper. You'll begin to notice subtle shifts in her behavior. She brings your favorite meal without you asking. She sends encouraging texts before your big moments. She initiates physical affection more often. She begins adjusting her schedule to align with yours, not because you demanded it, but because on a subconscious level, she now feels responsible for protecting the bond. Here's your next strategic move. Always leave space for her to step forward. Pause before replying. Let her suggest the next plan. Let her be the one to bridge the gap after moments of tension. Because the more she invests freely and willingly, the more deeply her emotional attachment grows. And the man who stays grounded, composed and present, without carrying all the emotional weight, is the one who holds lasting leverage. Now let's go to the final level, the point where her identity begins to rise through your presence. Rule 7. Become the man who elevates her entire identity. At the core, every woman doesn't just want love. She wants to evolve through the love she receives. Because being someone's priority isn't just about how much they care. It's about how much better she feels about herself by being with you. Machiavelli understood this dimension of power. People stay loyal not out of obligation, but because their status rises under your influence. Let's bring this into your world. You're not just attractive because of how you look or what you say. You're attractive because being with you makes her feel more valuable in her own eyes. Her social status improves. Her emotional intelligence expands. Her confidence grows. If you're single, you introduce her to better circles. You encourage her personal growth without ever feeling threatened by it. You give her access to new experiences, new standards, new visions of what life could be without ever boasting. You become the bridge to her upgraded self. And if you're in a committed relationship, you raise the bar together. You invest in your body, your mind, your wealth, your future, and she evolves right alongside you. Eventually, her subconscious links her own self-worth to staying connected with you. Because losing you wouldn't just mean losing a man. It would mean losing who she was becoming through your presence. Here's your next move. Position yourself as the man who upgrades both lives without ever asking for credit. Let your leadership be felt, not flaunted. Let your influence speak through her transformation. You don't beg for recognition. You lead quietly, consistently. And in doing so, you create a silent addiction. Her identity begins to rise simply by being beside you, because the man who becomes a mirror of her elevation can never be replaced. Let's close with the clarity every man must absorb. You're not here to manipulate. You're not here to play games. You're here to become the man women instinctively prioritize, not because of tactics, but because your presence adds undeniable value to their world. When you master emotional authority, when you leave unforgettable imprints, when you allow subtle competition, when you create micro-dependencies, when you lead with silent sovereignty, and when you let her choose to invest, you become irresistible. You don't fight to stay in her life. She fights to stay in yours. True masculine power has nothing to do with control for control's sake. It's about building a life so solid, so focused, so emotionally enriching, that your presence becomes a privilege she works to protect. This isn't toxicity. This is leadership. This is self-mastery, reflected through your relationships. While others beg for attention, while others chase validation, you build, you elevate, you lead, and because you never demanded to be her priority, she makes you one, not out of pressure, but because she knows, losing you means losing everything she now values in herself. Walk this path unapologetically, because true sovereignty doesn't chase, it attracts what desperate men will never even touch. And if this message opened your eyes, if you're serious about stepping into full control of your life and value, my book The Undeniable Man, Built to be Chosen, is now available, a strategic guide for men ready to rise. If you're ready to attract, lead and dominate in your love life, and far beyond, whether you're single or in a relationship, this is for you. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real strategic power that separates you from 99% of men, and that you can actually apply every single day. The link to the book is in the description. If this video spoke to something deep in you, don't just keep it to yourself. Drop a comment, even just a few words. It locks the lesson in your mind, and it might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you found value here, hit the like button, and share this with someone who needs it right now. Trust your instinct, because we're all here trying to become more clear, more grounded, and more powerful within. Let's build minds that don't break. Let's lead lives that can't be ignored.